Hi, everybody. Welcome to Mormonish. I'm Rebecca,
And I'm Landon.
and we're doing another late night podcast, aren't we, Landon?
We are. They're all late night, it seems, anymore.
Seems like they are. In fact, I had to wake Landon up for this one. I'm like, what are you doing? Sleep at 11 o'clock at night. There is news to be shared.
That's right.
Landon's laughing, but his eyes are blinking, cry for help, right?
Yes.
SOS. I can see the
Send
movement of
help.
that. I'm a horrible person. No, this is a really interesting story that's really kind of taken off in the last couple of days. So we thought, you know what, we'll just catch everybody up, and because I'm sure there'll be more coming out about it. And to give you a clue, what we're talking about, it's a sports related story. So I was like, Landon, do you have something sports like that you could like spin on your finger just to show everybody what did you come up with? I love this.
Well, this is as close as I come, so I can.
Ooh, yeah. That I'm sure from that everybody's going to guess the NBA story. Yeah, that's it exactly. So
Harlem Globetrotters, yeah, here I come. Globetrotters.
it's funny though because neither of us had a basketball as a prop, right? I mean, my kids all the time, all over the house. Your kids, all of, and both of us are like, we don't have
Yeah.
anything in our house,
Kids are
right?
gone, the basketballs are gone.
Yep,
Yeah.
the kids are gone, the basketballs are gone, and all we're left with is this microphone, right? That's it.
That's right.
Now who's putting out a cry for help? Anyway, this is a really fascinating story, and I'm sure you guys may have heard a little bit about it, but we thought we would just kind of gather some sources all in one place and just talk about it very quickly because I do believe it's kind of a developing story. So the story we're calling Groomed by Mormons with a big question mark. And this has to do with the NBA draft that just happened a day or two ago. So these are the key players, if I can make that joke right there. We have Caitlin Hutchinson on the left, and we have Kyle. How do we say his name?
Filopowski.
Filopowski. Yep. I knew I would get that wrong just in the moment. It would leave my brain. So, anyway, a very interesting scenario with this draft pick, Kyle. So, let's just kind of work through the slides and let's let everybody know what's going on. So we're kind of going to base our podcast on a couple different articles that we kind of threw together. The main one is an article that says the wild Kyle Filipowski girlfriend saga explained as best we can. So people are trying to figure out exactly what's going on because it's just been a day or two and things are really heating up. It says the reported reasons that Kyle Filipowski fell out of the first round in the 2024 NBA draft are wilder than you probably could have ever guessed. And this is an article in the SB Nation by James Dater. We're going to take pieces of this and pieces from some other online sports blogs.
Yeah, we probably ought to summarize who he is and what this is all about.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we're going through the whole article. We have the whole thing. So that is what's going to happen. Here we go. I'll let you read this first one, Landon.
Okay, Kyle Filipowski should have been a top 20 pick in the 2024 NBA draft, especially this NBA draft. When you're a 7-foot stretch four from Duke who averaged 16 points and 8 rebounds, when most of the 2024 class is full of Hail Mary picks and what ifs, it doesn't matter that there are concerns about your athleticism or shot creation. You get picked early. Instead, we saw one of the more puzzling draft drops in recent memory. In the span of 24 hours, Filipowski went from being mocked as high as the early teens to falling out of the first round altogether, earning the unfortunate reward of turning up to the NBA draft green room for likely first round draft picks, then waiting all night without hearing his name called, without getting picked. He was eventually taken in the second round on day 2 of the draft, with the Utah Jazz selecting him 32nd overall. Obviously, something had teams spooked about Filipowski, but nobody could have predicted how this saga would unfold over the internet on Thursday.
Wow. So do you want to kind of explain very briefly, Landon, what the NBA draft, I mean, how that kind of works, just for people that might not understand, just very quickly?
Well, I'll explain the best I can. The NBA draft, there's basically 2 rounds. They only have 2 rounds in the NBA draft. And basically, it's a big deal whether you're drafted in the first round versus the second round. There's a big difference in the money. There's a big difference in the contract type that you get. if you're a first rounder versus a second rounder. Every team gets one pick. Sometimes they'll trade a pick and may not have one, or they'll trade up or down. But every team gets one pick. Usually, the worst team in the NBA gets the first pick. It's not always the case because they'll trade them, but usually that's the case. And so, the idea is the worst team gets to select the best player to try to keep the league competitive. So it's a big deal. The number one guy goes for way more than the number 30 guy, and there's 30 teams, so the first round draft is 30 people.
Wow.
So 32nd put him second in the second round.
Yeah. So interestingly, it sounds like he was really slated to be in that top round. In fact, he was in a green room where they send the, top picks. They're going to hear their name. He heard nothing, right? Crickets.
Yeah. Well, they said he'd be high, low teens. So 13, 14, somewhere in there. So, usually you're going to pick the best athlete, whoever the best athlete is that's still available is who you're going to pick. So when he comes in 13, no one picks him. 14, no one picks him. 15, we go through 15, 16, 17 different players get picked, and he still isn't picked. So he's got to be going, what is going on here?
It's like being on the playground, right? In elementary school, where you're like, isn't anybody going to pick me?
Yeah.
I still remember that trauma. I had big old thick glasses, but I was really good at kickball. Like, come on, you should have picked me and given me a chance. Seriously, just look past the glasses, okay?
Was everyone always going, oh, we got Rebecca?
Yeah, they actually were until I was actually really athletic, until I actually then started playing there. And like, oh, where'd that come from? I'm like, how dare you stereotype me?
I should have been first round.
Just because I have really thick glasses and read nothing but Anne of Green Gables. How dare you? That's right. I should have been. So this scenario was interesting because he wasn't chosen. And as the last sentence there says, there's some reason that the teams were like, oh, I don't know, because he was athletic. He absolutely on paper should have been one of those first picks, but something happened. Let's find out. And it has something to do with Mormonism. Otherwise, we wouldn't be covering it, right, Landon? And I wouldn't have woke you up in the middle of the night to do it. So I'll read this one. Concerns of an older girlfriend, right there. That sounds really interesting, right? I don't know what that's about. So it says the first reports of something being off in the Filopowski camp came on Thursday morning as ESPN draft analyst Jonathan Giovanni, is that how you say his name? Again, I'm not in the sports world. I'm guessing it is. Explained on the Post podcast what he'd heard from teams in regard to the Duke big man, meaning that he talked to, I guess, various coaches about why was he not considered in this, first round pick. And he says NBA teams are talking about the fact that they had questions about his girlfriend being so much older than him. Why was he estranged from his family because of that whole situation? It's a very, very odd situation. I personally don't understand why it would cause him to drop like this into the second round. So it sounds like his personal life was something that made teams maybe take a step back.
Yeah, and it appears that it was all related to this girlfriend that he had who, although they look like a cute couple, it turns out she's quite a bit older than him, which, typically wouldn't be a cause for concern, especially if this was a man that had a younger girlfriend, nobody would question it at all. But a man with an older girlfriend has raised some questions.
Right. And there's more to it even than that, because you're right. Somebody who's 20 dating a whatever age, that's their own business. But it gets a little more unusual than that. And as I said, keep watching. It does have to do with Mormonism in the strangest way. So let's see. Did I read that or did you read that? I can't.
You just read that. So
okay, then you get to read this.
That's what happens when you get a nap before.
I didn't have a nap. So yeah.
Just to establish things, Caitlin Hutchinson is being referred to as Filopowski's girlfriend. However, the couple are engaged as of April 18th with the intent of getting married in August. As it pertains to draft stock, Filopowski is 20 years old, and Giovanni said his fiancé is 25. Sure, the age difference is a little unusual, but it's hardly the kind of earth-shattering revelation that would normally tank a draft stock. Similarly, there have been plenty of prospective rookies who have been estranged from their parents, and it didn't cause them to fall like Filopowski was. There was a missing piece to this puzzle, and it wasn't long before the internet began to try and work out what was going on here.
Yep, you can always count on people to crowdsource any kind of mystery, right? Any kind of mystery, they're going to get to the bottom of it. And I guess we kind of fall on that too, because we did our own sleuthing here and did pick up some pieces of information that I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen so far, which is going to be interesting. So it goes on to say what we know about Caitlin Hutchinson, an Alabama native. There is little concrete information on exactly who Filipowski's fiance is. Most information can be gleaned from past social media posts, which, as of writing, are still public. Although I did read this article, I think was from a couple days ago, that some things have been taken down since. Trying to ascertain Hutchinson's age is critical here, and this will become very apparent in a moment. So go ahead with that, Landon. Let's talk through these pictures here from social media.
Well, yeah, here's the problem is here she is. She's a graduate of the University of Alabama. This is a picture of her and also at her high school graduation. She graduated from high school in May of 2015, and in December 23rd of 2018, she showed us graduating from the University of Alabama. So with that information, you can start doing a little bit of math.
Yeah, and I think we will on the next couple of slides. So, yeah, the one thing that everybody pointed to that really started to make people go, this is a little more unusual than what we thought. Just someone in their 20s with someone who's also in their 20s, but a little older. So, this is called the prom photo. And it says, as people comb through social media on Thursday morning, a photo of Filipowski and Hutchinson from his high school prom began catching everyone's eye. It shows the couple together, and it's dated May 21st, 2022. Filipowski was born in November of 2003. At the time of this photo, he was 17 years old, and Hutchinson was probably 25 or 26. And we're going to dig into that a little more about the exact age. Even if we assume the first time they met was at the prom, that's still an adult dating a minor. However, a now deleted comment on Filipowski's prom photo from Hutchinson read, 1 year with my favorite person. So that would mean that they started their relationship when he was 16 years old and she was likely 24 or 25. So that's interesting. And I know you pointed out, Landon, that just the phrase 1 year with my favorite person, that can mean that they've been friends, that they had a friendship. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're in a romantic relationship. I guess there are all kinds of variables, but on paper, it's definitely something that seems unusual. And then there was from another online blog, I picked this up where it said, Caitlin publicly marked the inception of their relationship with a heartfelt post in 2022. And I think it was on the prom picture that said my, and then a little heart symbol. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on the prom picture? Again, so many questions.
Well, a couple things pop out to me. If she's in fact 25 years old, dating a 17-year-old at the prom, that's obviously concerning. It's not, as long as nothing improper was happening, though, it may seem a little improper, but not necessarily illegal. The problem occurs if there's actually any kind of a relationship going on. So I think we need to take that into consideration, but there's a few other things that come up here as we start looking at this as to, is this a physical relationship or is this just friends and she's older than him and they've been talking for a year and he's invited her to the prom because she's his best friend.
Yep, exactly. And you brought up the point, and I was going to make a slide, but I didn't, of the quarterback who had the BYU.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. In one case, this could be something innocent, but I could see from the sports team's point of view, this could be Zach Wilson, they're looking at Zach Wilson and going, remember, if you remember the photo of him at his prom, he took two BYU cheerleaders who, would have clearly been over 18 at the time.
Right.
He may have been 18 at the time, so it may have been legal, but nonetheless, prom picture with him there with two BYU co-eds. And then, of course,
He was a
we see that
quarterback.
he was the quarterback. And
Right.
then, I think it was his mom that came out and said that he'd been having an affair with somebody, a friend of his mother's,
Right.
who was much older. So and as anyone who watched Zach Wilson's career, it pretty much tanked. I think he played with the Jets 1 year, maybe two, and then got traded away. He was a first round number one, number two pick. I think he was number two pick. And so they spent millions of dollars on him, and he turned into uh, not what they paid for.
Right. So maybe they're trying to avoid drama from a coach's and team's perspective, although we know there's so much drama in, every area of sport, but maybe they try to shy away from drama at first. There's nothing they can do later, right? When they're established and playing, but maybe at first they're like, okay, nope, I passed.
Yeah, and I think, you can look at the, what's the worst case scenario here that they could be picturing? Well, he would be the victim if the worst case
Yes.
happened, and that is, she recognizes, of course, he went to Duke.
Mm-hmm.
He's 7 foot tall. He's a top tier high school basketball player. It's going to be pretty clear to any girl that this kid's got a chance at a real shot at the NBA.
Yeah.
Duke is a top tier basketball team. He's going to Duke to play. That she looks at that and says, "Oh, I can marry an NBA player here, and I'm 25 and he's 17. If I start working this now, I could grow this into something." That's the worst case. I'm not saying that's what happened,
Right.
but you could see where the coaches and the executives of these NBA teams, if you're going to pay some guy, $5-6 million a year, you want to make sure he's going to produce and that he's not involved in drama. And they look at this situation and they go, this could be bad if this is, what it is.
Right. And it sounds like there was information coming out from his family, that there was some drama around him being with her. And we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think maybe they just were skittery and going, oh, I don't know right now. So, but not the Jazz. He's
Not
playing
the
for the
Jazz.
Jazz. That's right.
Yeah.
So, here's another close up of that picture from prom. The age difference is quite noticeable. Since Hutchinson is 6 years older, she would have been roughly 24 years old when she started dating Filopowski, who was still in high school. The future Duke star even posted on Instagram photos of the two during his prom and captioned it with, "People will stare, make it worth it," I think is what it says. So interesting. It seems like they're pretty comfortable and proud with their relationship. So now we'll get into a little bit more about Caitlin herself. Do you want to read this, Landon? And again, kind of taken from that original article and some other blogs on social media.
Yeah. Caitlin Hutchinson's influential parents, Kevin and Amanda Hutchinson, have her back at all times. Carl Filopowski's girlfriend, Caitlin Hutchinson, was born to her parents, her father, Kevin Hutchinson, and her mother, Amanda Hutchinson, on 17 September 1997.
Okay, so we estimated that. We kind of went through and said, okay, if she was in high school at this point and graduated and then college at this point, we came up with 1997. So I think that's probably pretty close to accurate. So he was born in
2003, I think.
2003. Yeah.
So she's 6 years older
yeah,
than
that's definitely depending on, I didn't remember the date of his, but it's going to be, yeah.
Which isn't a,
No.
for adults, that's not a big deal. But when
I'm
you're
older
talking
than you, and I have no problem podcasting with you
that's
whatsoever.
right.
I mean, sometimes I have to explain things to you because you did miss the 80s, but other than that, it's okay.
That's right. But you're not 6 years older, so
No, I'm not 6 years older. I'm about half that older than you. So, okay, all right, let's read some other stuff about Caitlin.
based on her LinkedIn page, which had been taken down, Hutchinson went to the University of Alabama from 2015 to 2018, which is what we saw.
Right.
Kyle Filopowski started playing for the Blue Devils in 2022 and is now a 20-year-old Jazz rookie.
Okay.
Hutchinson attended James Clemson High School in Madison, Alabama. There she played on the Jets girls lacrosse team. Caitlin has a bachelor's degree in education, kinesiology, and exercise science and health promotion. She also got her master's of business administration from LSU Shreveport in 2022.
Okay, so she's got her master's degree.
Yeah, so she's been working hard at school.
That's right. And so up to this point, you guys are probably like, where the heck is Mormonism and all this, right? I've never known Mormonish to just do a sports podcast, right? Well, here's the question. Here's where Mormonism comes in. So let's dive in. So it all starts with his family. The Filopowski family weighs in. A critical component to this story, in addition to the relationship, were reports Filopowski had become estranged from his family over dating Hutchinson. It wasn't long before people claiming to be Kyle's older brother Daniel and his mom Becky were on Twitter explaining their sides of things and trying to track down Jonathan Giovanni to tell their side of the story. And he's the one we quoted before. He's an NBA draft analyst. So looks like Kyle's family wants to reach out and kind of explain what's going on with their estrangement, what's going on with his relationship. And the little caption on the picture says, Kyle Filopowski's family is on Twitter revealing how his girlfriend groomed him and cut him off from his family. Now that's a very different thing, right? Than what you were saying, just being friends and going to prom and, an older girl and a younger boy just being friends. This is different as far as what the family is saying.
Yeah, the family says, hey, he stopped talking to us. He stopped interfacing with us once he started dating this girl. Which has drawn concerns from the NBA teams as well.
Right. So here is a series of tweets. I think you can probably just read the older brothers. He's talking to somebody. He's trying to get a hold of somebody that can hear more of the story. If you want to read just the ones under Daniel, I think that'll give everyone the idea.
Yeah. Daniel he says, I'm Kyle's oldest brother. You all don't have a clue of the extent of the story that has to do with his girlfriend. There's a story that has been pushed under the table for nearly 2 years now. If Giovanni responds to my DMs, he would be able to get the full story that no one knows about outside of those involved, Duke coaching staff and his agent. Other than messaging him on his IG account, don't know how to get in touch with him, but look up and read on Mormon grooming and brainwashing, and you'll find some introductory details in there to connect some dots into the story that is going on here.
Wow. So that is what kind of made the eyebrows raise in the post-Mormon community. We were sort of thinking, are they implying that, is she a Mormon? Is her family LDS? Did she convert him to Mormonism? And did he become estranged from his family because of that? I mean, that's kind of on a glance at it, that's kind of what it sounds like.
Yeah, I think we've all had someone that we know of who was not a member or was an inactive member and met a girl, and soon he's dating, and he's either reactivated or converted to the gospel as a condition to marry her. They'll lay out these conditions, and that's might be the conditions that would be laid out.
Yeah, no, I thought about my own family story where my mom was a convert and her family was very religious in another denomination. And that's exactly what happened. They became completely estranged for years until I was born. I mean, she married, someone else in the church, my dad, and went on and had their life. And then when I was born, they kind of all reconciled. But that's exactly what happened. She was pulled away, pulled into Mormonism, and did not have anything to do with her family for a number of years. So I know this is a reality, and I'm sure that our viewers and listeners all can tell stories of people that, and it's sometimes it's a two-way street, it's just too difficult to relate when somebody becomes involved in a high demand, high control scenario. But this is really interesting, and there's more to say on it. Let's go to our next slide. But see, I told you Mormonism would come into it. So now we know. So the mother and the brother were all saying things, just kind of putting out little breadcrumbs about the situation. Nobody's really stated exactly what it is. The mother, I believe, said still 6 years older. She couldn't find a spouse in her circle, so she clawed an immature money maker. Okay, that's what you kind of alluded to before, Landon. It could be a situation where you spot somebody that has all this potential and you kind of go after them. And again, we don't know. It could also just be a legitimate affection in a relationship. So the mother also said you were opening a 2-year issue, and she is 28. I don't think she's 28 if she was born in 97.
Yeah, she was born in 97, and
Yeah.
she in September she would
Yeah.
be 27
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
September. So
Ish. Right.
26
Okay.
right now.
With an end game 3 years ago to have a diamond on her ring hand when Kyle left Duke. He was still in high school. So you can see that this mother's upset. In her mind, it seems like her son has kind of been taken from her and not having any contact for several years. So let's see what else. And this picture on the left is from their engagement picture. They took a series of engagement pictures because, as it was stated before, it looks like they're going to be getting married in August, got engaged in April.
When Filopowski declared for the NBA draft in April, he did not include his family in his goodbye statement. The family gets no congratulations since Kyle chose to leave the family 2 years ago, an April 13th post said. So evidently, when he said his goodbyes from leaving Duke, he didn't mention his family at all in that goodbye. So,
right, because you often hear that. You hear like, congratulations to so-and-so player and their family, Mr. and Mrs. You hear the family brought into announcements or intentions, but sounds like nothing. There's nothing, no family mentioned for him.
yeah, looks like no involvement at all there.
Exactly. So, if we combine the accounts of the Filopowski family, they appear to be alleging that Caitlin Hutchinson began a relationship with Filopowski as a high schooler with the intent of grooming him and converting him to the Mormon religion. According to their allegations, that included a long-term play to become engaged to him shortly after he left Duke and with the NBA on the horizon. This appears to have caused friction between Filopowski and his family, with Kyle seemingly choosing his relationship with Caitlin over his family. And again, according to their tweets and Giovanni's accounting of what the NBA executives are saying, severing a relationship with them. So that's kind of a little summary of where we stand.
Yeah. And I think, we've all seen this sort of an incident with Mormon families.
Yeah.
And, on one sense, it's for a family who's losing the child or who maybe sees Mormonism as a cult or who think their child's making a mistake, they see that they're losing him and they're upset and they're mad about it. Likewise, the family who is a believing family whose daughter is able to get the young man that she wants to marry or whatever to join the church, even whether it's marry or just dating, that she's able to get a young man to join the church. That's exactly what the church asks. You need to get him to join the church, and then he can take you to the temple and he can marry you the right way. And so, this is kind of an honorable thing that she's doing in Mormon circles. But to Kyle's family, you could see where this would be very upsetting.
Yep, and not understand. And absolutely. I mean, I have a family member in a situation like that where, family left the church, not active. The family member connects with a girl and another family, and that family embraces that person, right? And they're very excited that they can support him in what they see now, him wanting to return to activity, and his family is there, but what they're doing is they're helping him along this path that now they can kind of course correct him. In this case, of course, Kyle was not a Mormon to begin with, but brought into the fold. I mean, you really have all this incredible support and fellowshipping when someone is brought in from the outside. And to the family that's left, of course, you look around and you think, well, where, why, what is happening? Where's my child? Where's my son? And then it can be a very strained relationship. I can see Kyle's point of view where he's like, look, I'm discovering this new thing. If this really is what's happening, my family doesn't understand. It just becomes harder and harder to be around the family. So it is a two-way street.
Yeah, and it could be that he's having maybe his family, and I'm just throwing out suppositions here. It could be anything, but it could be, is his family not getting along? There's a lot of arguing, and then he meets this girl. He goes over to her house. They're happy. They, are doing family home evening, all these other things, and he's like, "Wow, this is really cool.
Right.
This is what I want." And then his family says, "No, you're not going with that Mormon girl." And he's
Yeah.
like, "Well, I'm picking this over this."
Yep.
And the
Oh,
separation
yeah.
happens. So, this could be that.
I have heard that scenario a few
Yeah.
times, and that's exactly what happens. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
We just
gravitate
don't
toward.
know.
We just don't know. We have no idea. But from the tweets and things, the family is very wounded. It sounds like that they've been cut off. I mean, pretty formally cut off, as I understand it. There was even sort of an email between them, I think I read, where it just said, we're kind of, I'm going this way now, which again, he's an adult. At this point, he's 20 years old. So here's kind of a little rundown of what I think the mother was saying from different sites. Some of these might be a repeat from before. She's 28 with an end game 3 years ago to have a diamond ring on her hand. When Kyle left Duke, he was still in high school. This is said when the pictures of Hutchinson and Filopowski just prom emerged online. The mother also said she couldn't find a spouse in her circle, so she clawed an immature moneymaker. We read that before too. And then she said, getting ready for the payout and getting his genetic material, got to put a bun in the oven soon. So it seems like from their point of view, they really see it as totally calculated, completely calculated.
Yeah, they see her as a money grubber
Yeah.
who saw a young man with a great potential to go the MBA, and she took advantage of it, moved in. You can understand why a parent would think that when a
Absolutely.
17-year-old is dating a 25-year-old.
Or 24, whatever they age. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever she
No, I
was at
can
the
see
time.
all sides of it. That's why I feel sad for everybody. All right. So here's the question. Is Caitlin LDS? The mother's alluding and the brother's alluding that she was trying to groom him into Mormonism. Is she LDS? Well, do you want to tell everybody how we found these
Uh,
pictures, Landon?
well, we were trying to figure out, is there any way we can find this? And my 20-year-old son stopped by, and we said, "What do you think of this?" And within like 1 minute, he had
Yeah.
pictures of
He's like,
her
let me look on the
in
phone.
front of the church.
Oh, she's tagged in this. I go, what does tagging mean?
Yeah, and it's like, "Oh no, I didn't look at. I looked at hers. I saw some of her
Yeah.
friends. I went to her friends, and here she is."
Yep.
So
So he found a very old picture from a youth conference, an LDS youth conference. You can't mistake that gym back there, right? And they're all dressed in Sunday clothes like you are at youth conference. And this is from 2014. So to go to youth conference, you have to be between 14 and 18. You have to still be in high school. So she would have been that age. You can see her in the pretty green skirt right in the middle. And she was participating in an LDS youth conference. So again, does that say she's LDS? I don't know, but it does say she was at a youth conference. And then another picture where she's posing with some young men. You recognize that as an LDS building or a seminary building or something, or a stake center. And it says, the friend who tagged her said, glad to have my brother back from his mission. See all our friends. This is in 2017. So again, she's at least connected in the LDS community. I mean, I believe she's LDS from these, but she could.
And yeah, I think between these pictures and the claims of the family that she's LDS, that she at least was LDS
Right.
at some point.
Right.
As we begin going through some of the pictures, we're kind of going, is she still
She's
LDS?
dressing a little
Because
differently.
yeah, she's dressed quite a bit
Oh,
different
she
from
looks
what.
gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, she's a pretty girl, no
She's
doubt
very
about it.
beautiful. Yeah.
But you see how she's dressed at youth conference there, and you compare that to what she's wearing now,
Yeah. It's
and
different. Or
what
even
she's
to
wearing
prom.
now is yeah, or a prom,
That was quite the
and
dress. Exactly.
yeah,
So,
she's a gorgeous young lady, but when you look at the modesty requirements from the church,
Yeah.
they just wouldn't fall within that currently. So
Yeah.
uh,
Depending, I feel there's a lot of wiggle room anymore,
there is
so it's
especially
very
with the
different
new
from what I was.
strengthening youth. Yeah, they kind of haven't
Yeah,
told you.
very different from back then. So then it goes on to say, if everything outlined above is to be believed, meaning everything we've gone through so far, Filopowski could be viewed as a victim. And that's what you said, Landon. If the worst case scenario is true, if it's a gold digger grooming kind of a scenario, then he was a victim. If he's 16 and someone in their 20s, is befriending him in that way, in that more close way. Again, if the facts outlined above are actually what happened, it would appear an adult entered a relationship with a high school basketball player, one who was highly touted and seemed destined for the NBA. Then the same relationship reportedly damaged his draft stock by making Filipowski either too uncomfortable to talk about in interviews, which scared off the teams, or by raising red flags about Hutchinson's influence on his life. So, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, I guess as part of the draft pick, they interview the players and talk to them about their life and their family. And if he just was kind of not explaining estrangement and his current relationship, they just would have said, "Oh, this seems dicey. It says he seemed uncomfortable to talk about it." So,
Yeah, you're about to give a 20-year-old kid, $2
yeah,
million to
yeah,
$5 million a year, $10 million a year, depending on where he is in the draft. You want to make sure it's a stable person, and you could see maybe in this case with what's happening that they may be concerned that someone is going to take advantage of him very quickly,
mm-hmm.
uh, and take advantage of that money, which I think became a problem to the teams. Uh, Myself, I stand back and look at this and I go, okay, but it seems to me there's a lot other social conditions that a lot of the players going into the NBA have
Yeah,
that
that's true too.
are probably just as bad
Yeah.
or benign, depending on what this is.
And that's exactly it. They've probably seen so much, though they know. And I think that last line, which I didn't really pay attention to before, the influence on his life. And I'm sure they do look at that. I mean, you think of I'm more in the theater, less in the sports, but the stage mom, right? Oh my gosh. As a play director for, 20 years in a youth theater, the stage mom is a thing. And sometimes when you have actors coming back year after year, you take that into consideration. You and your team go, oh, he's so good, but it's so hard to deal with his mom or his dad. Maybe you consider that regardless of what kind of a good player or actor they are. And so I wonder if, not knowing, does somebody have a hold on him? Does someone have influence? Is somebody going to be able to affect his game, his performance? It's just an unknown.
Yeah, of course, you could look at it from the other side too and say maybe he didn't think his mom had his best interest in
Yep.
mind. Maybe she was thinking she was going to get a
Yep.
lot of this
We
money,
have no idea.
and his girlfriend is watching out for him and
Yep.
taking care of him, and she's his fiance and is going
Yeah.
to make sure that he plays his best and that he's there every day on time and that he's working out his best contract, So this could go both
Yeah.
ways.
We really don't know.
I think in as far as NBA players go, this to me would seem rather benign. So there must be something that we don't know
Yeah,
that's
it's an
concerning them
unfolding
that
story.
much.
It's an unfolding
However,
story.
I think it is interesting that he was not drafted by 30 teams. Of course, he really probably wasn't drafted by about 15 teams because he wasn't a number one draft pick or a number two. He was somewhere in the teens, so several teams looked past him. But it's interesting that he was picked up by the Utah Jazz
Yeah,
because they don't seem to have a problem with this.
right.
So I think that's something that I think we're going to discuss here in a minute.
Yeah,
So
and they may know more about the Mormon element of this and say this is where you need to be because, this is where people are going to understand the Mormon church and the more high demand, high control aspects to it. So yeah, and that's just a guess,
yeah,
but who knows? It kind of makes
if
sense.
if you're a coaching staff with no LDS people on there and you think, oh, Mormons are a high demand
Yeah.
cultish religion,
Yeah.
and here
Yeah.
this girl is taking him away from his family and he's
Yeah.
joined a cult,
Yep.
this is not something we want.
Yep.
Whereas, the Jazz, their owner is LDS. Danny Ainge, one of the executive
Yeah.
VPs, is a LDS. So you've got, and they could be looking at this. Wow, the fans are going to love this kid. He left
Yep.
his family and
I
left everything behind, just like Jesus said, and
yep.
went and followed him and joined the Mormon
And joined the
church. And the,
church.
the
Yep.
fans are going to flock to see this guy,
Yep.
and all of them are going to point to their kids and say, be like him,
Yeah. No, you are
So.
not wrong on that either. So, yep, all we can do is discuss, right? So I think it's your turn to read.
As of right now, it does not appear there is anything illegal going on. Filopowski is 20. His fiancé is in her late 20s, so they can do what they want. However, this story isn't going away, and it may be only a matter of time before more information comes to light about the nature of this relationship and how it's damaged the Filopowski family. At the very least, given how much this has blown up on the internet and appears to have damaged his draft stock enough to drop a likely lottery pick out of the first round entirely, it seems probable that Filipowski will get asked about it by NBA media at some point,
Mhm.
when maybe we will get his and Hutchinson's side of the story.
Yeah, I feel like probably by now they've hired a PR team and, maybe we'll make a statement. Maybe we'll say something.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to have to, or he'll show up at some church testimony meeting and tell his story there. I don't know.
Well, and again, and you pointed this out when we were talking about it. She, I believe, is or was Mormon because LDS, we saw those pictures. But all it's really said, he's been groomed into Mormonism. We don't even know that he himself is LDS. We just know that the
Correct.
allegation was he was groomed, taken in,
Yeah,
by.
it kind of sounds like he was taken in by the church, but it never says he joined the
Yeah. So we
church.
don't know.
But we also saw some other things that make us question what really, if Caitlin, asked him to join the church and all of that, because some of the stories we saw said they were living together.
Yeah.
So we couldn't tell what was going on there. You would think if she said, "Oh, you got to join the church if you want to marry me," that you wouldn't be moving in and living
Right.
together
Well, and it could have
right
been the way it was
before
stated. It kind of
your
said they
wedding.
make
But
their home. Yeah. They
yeah,
make
it
their
said they
home
make their home.
in.
Maybe they're separate and in the
Yeah.
same city.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's unknown at this time what her
Yeah.
status is, but she clearly looks like she clearly was LDS when she was younger,
Right.
back in her teens. And is she still? We just don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. But what we were curious to figure out, because we love to do math in the middle of the night, don't we? Is how much money could this have cost him? This is kind of an interesting breakdown here, I think. And
Yeah.
by
So
that, we mean from sitting in that green room, thinking that you're going to be picked, somewhere in the teens, and then waiting to the next day and being picked up in the 30s.
yeah, yeah, it's a huge deal, and it looks like this girlfriend, and if he in fact was, converted to Mormonism, or at least fell in with that side, that's what lowered his draft pick, and we don't know for sure, but that's what his family is claiming. So what we did is we decided, let's look at last year. They said he'd probably go low teens. So I looked up the number 13 draft last year. Uh, his name is Grady Dick. He plays for the Toronto Raptors. He got a $21.4 million contract. That's 5.3 million for 4 years. So 5.3 million a year with a 4 year contract, all guaranteed. So he's got a 4 year contract. No matter what happens with him, he gets $21.4 million
Oh, even if he's
over four
injured,
years.
even
If
if
he's
he can't
injured,
play,
or
he's
if
guaranteed
they,
that amount.
yep,
Wow.
he's guaranteed $21.4 million. Compare that to number 32 last year, Jalen Pickett, who plays for the Denver Nuggets. He was given an 8.2 million contract for 4 years, which, is only like $2 million a year. And he's only got $5.2 million
Oh, that's a
guaranteed.
big difference.
Yeah, it's a huge difference. So
Wow.
$13.2 million over 4 years is what the difference is in the salary. and it's 16.2 million guaranteed difference. So
Jeez.
he's guaranteed 16.2 million less than if he'd have gone, in a number 13
Right.
or
So
thereabouts. These are
to be clear, this slide is talking about Kyle. This slide is comparing the two picks where he could have been and where he was from last year. And this is showing had he been where he was meant to be in the green room, this is what he lost.
Yep. This is the difference between last year's number 13 and last year's number 32 pick. So him sliding from 13 to 32, this is about how much it cost him. So this whole incident has been extremely costly to him.
Yep. Although I have read statements, and I don't have slides, that he has said he's so excited to be coming to Utah. He's absolutely thrilled to be playing for the team and looking forward to what happens in the future. And as you said, they haven't negotiated the money yet, so we don't know about that. But you can kind of guess based on last year what it will probably be like.
Yeah, it's probably going to be in this same, because keep in mind that the Jazz had actually drafted, they had the number 10 draft pick. So, where he was a 13 or a 14, you take the highest, usually you take the highest pick or at least the highest rated guy for the position that you're looking for. And so, they picked someone at number 10. He wouldn't have quite been up at that level yet for them to pick him there. But then he goes a whole round almost. They come back and they're number 2 in the second round, and they're able to pick him then. So
yeah, and I did see articles after that first day where the people were really surprised before all this other stuff came out. They were like, why was he in the green room and now he was not chosen? It definitely made some headlines. It was that surprising.
Yeah, everyone expected him to go in the first round.
Yep, absolutely. So then we made the observation, I guess he did lose some more money if he did join the LDS church, didn't he, Landon?
Yeah, well, if he joins the church, he can expect it. He'll pay about $820,000 in tithing over the length of his contract. So, if he'd have been picked higher, he'd have paid about $1.2 million more than the $820,000. Wow. So if he joins the church, he doesn't have to pay as much tithing because he dropped that many spots. So if you want to look at a bright side on the story, I guess that would be it. My guess is this may not hurt him as much at come contract signing time. I think it's going to hurt in that he's going to probably be in the $2 million range instead of where he was, simply because of the laws or the rules of how much salary you can give people and what you can give a first rounder versus a second round draft pick. So it's definitely going to hurt him. You can always renegotiate a contract if you show up and perform. And, I'm not a big basketball guy. I don't watch a lot of basketball. For the Jazz, to me, one of the problems the Jazz have always had is that they get a high ranked guy and they can't keep him there. Yeah. And if this guy really gets married and he either converts to LDS or he's got an LDS wife, he's going to be probably pretty motivated and a pretty big celebrity in Utah, not only because of Jazz, but because he's LDS or at least associated with LDS. This could be huge for him, and he may very well stay in Utah where others leave so quickly after their 4-year contract is up. He may stick around. So if he ends up producing, this could be a good thing for the Jazz. I know 50 people are going to come in and say, oh, this was a horrible pick for the Jazz. And I'll admit right now, I'm not an expert, but I can definitely see that has always been a problem with the Jazz, is maintaining high draft picks that they draft. Keeping them around for more than 4 to 6 years has always been difficult.
Yeah. And I did have one more funny thought about tithing that I just thought of right now. So the church actually shot itself in the foot by being the church because of the church, he's not paying more money and they would have gotten more tithing, but because of the church, they're not. So kind of ironic, I think.
Well, one thing we've learned, if he becomes if he comes to Utah as a jazz player, and if Caitlin is LDS and they are LDS, or any way shown, the church will certainly take credit for his performance
Yeah.
on the
No,
court.
that's 100%. I think that's our next slide, isn't it? I think we're going to talk about that for a second. So yeah, absolutely. What does it mean? And I put the two logos together, the Jazz and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I think that's exactly right. If they are LDS, they'll definitely become a power couple. They'll definitely be upper echelon royalty, right? And like you alluded to before, it's an amazing story. Somebody who is an LDS and joins and is this, famous person, that they always seem to really love that.
Oh, I can see it now. If he were to join the church, there's going to be firesides all over with
Yeah.
Utah Jazz
Yeah.
player Kyle
Yeah.
Filopowski, and
Yeah.
they're going to tout this everywhere they can.
Yeah.
And the story, you're going to see a completely different narrative than you're hearing from his family.
Yep, that's exactly right. We will see. And so I guess our last slide is this is an old silent movie actually called Trapped by the Mormons. I've actually seen this. You can look it up on YouTube. It's really funny, but I just thought we could end on this because, that's kind of what they're claiming, that he was trapped by the Mormons, right? And it impacted, well, basically his whole life so far, because how much of a regular young person can you be in high school if your girlfriend, as a college student, already a young adult, a working young adult, it definitely impacts your life. And then, you're not with your family anymore for whatever the reason is. And then you're stuck in the green room, right? It's definitely had an impact on him. And again, it remains to be seen. Good, bad, indifferent, in the middle. We don't really even know, but I'm sure there's going to be more that'll come out about it, and just really interesting allegations from the family. And they haven't said anything yet. So I'm guessing at some point they will probably get a PR team. I did see a couple posts and tweets that were like, oh, he's been groomed by Mormons and now he's going to Utah, like it's just the final nail. He's kind of been taken by the Mormons and now he's in their state. We'll never get him back. I saw a few posts like that lamenting the Jazz pick.
Yeah, just like the Mormon apostles and stuff would go to England and do missionary work, and then they'd send back all the young women to Utah. Yes. Here it's the opposite. You got the claim is the young woman went out and got the men and is sending them back to Utah to appropriate. So it's kind of a funny story. I just can't tell what to make from this because it could be that they really are in love. If she's a good Mormon girl and she just she could be 25, 26 years old, still be a virgin, which is what the church requires.
Oh,
there's
dear,
no sexual
don't go there.
Yeah, there's no sexual relationship
Good
whatsoever
heaven.
That's happened.
Right.
She just was pen pals. They started liking each other. He said, I'm inviting my best friend to the prom. She came and went with him. She said, I'm going off to get my master's degree. You go do your basketball. And we'll prepare our lives and get ready. It could be that story. I can't tell, and I can't make out from what's here. So, but the story here then, in that case, if that is the case, is that all these people saw him joining Mormonism and as odd and as something dangerous. A lot of these basketball players come from very poor neighborhoods. They're from the hood. They've got some pretty bad environments.
There's different lifestyles for sure that come into the NBA. Absolutely.
Yeah. And this doesn't seem to be that story,
but you're right. It seems like it really is just Mormonism, maybe. If you strip everything else away, what they're concerned about is, at least the parents for sure are saying, it's Mormonism. So I don't know. And then we were kind of talking a little bit earlier about, the whole idea of grooming, and especially girls sometimes in the church. I've seen this, definitely saying, you need to go on a mission. I won't be with you unless you go on, that kind of thing that happens. So that's kind of a form of, I don't know, grooming or expectation, where the young men definitely shape up based on the expectation from the young women. And, they kind of keep on the straight and narrow because of that. And I think girls are taught in young women to expect that and to insist on that. So definitely the young men, I think, are often kept in check by the young women in the church.
And that's where this becomes, makes me question a little bit, is she still in the church? Because, they'll tell you, oh, you got to get him on a mission. And then when he's a returned missionary, then you can marry him. And,
he's mission age. She's known him the whole time that he's been mission age. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
because a lot of athletes go on missions. A lot of athletes with a track to college and the NBA will go on a mission first. So
and are the coaches sitting there going, oh my gosh, is he gonna? Are we going to pay him this money? And then he's all of a sudden going to want to go on a mission and we just use one of our draft picks because he wants to do that. Maybe that's the thinking they have.
What? You might be right. I had not thought of that. I always think of David Archuleta, right? I mentioned this before, who came in second in American Idol, although he should have come in first. And he had coupled managers and they were ready to fast track his career. And he said, I'm going on a mission. And they're like, what? This is the hottest iron you are ever going to have to strike ever, but he did. I think there's a lot of pressure, especially when you're out front like that, and set an example. Of course, now he's, kind of found himself and doing some wonderful things. But that's a very good point. It really could have been coaches going, is he going to turn around and decide to go on a mission or who knows what? Maybe that's what it meant by influence on him.
That could be. And Caitlin, she's a smart girl, though. She's, got a master's degree.
Yeah.
Got to be a pretty smart girl. And I don't think it takes much to figure out, the salary of an NBA player versus the salary of a Mormon missionary.
Well, he can afford to pay to go on a mission now if he plays a couple years, and he's still very young. So I don't know. It's just an interesting exercise to kind of look and see what's going on here. And I guess the bottom line is we will see. I know more is going to come. Probably by the time we air this, more will come out and will already be obsolete. So if we are, please bear with us. But we just kind of wanted to, because I had several people go, what's going on with this? Have you heard about this? And I thought, let's just put some stuff together so that we can kind of catch everybody up to what's happening. Because it is an interesting scenario. Is that how the church is viewed out there in the world? That it's something kind of concern and influence that might make you do something, I don't know. I'm not quite sure how to look at it. Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think it'll play out and we'll learn more and then we'll be able to see what this is, but it's certainly getting a lot of play in the post-Mormon world and probably the Mormon world as they see what's happening to this new jazz player.
Yeah. And I will say that reminds me, I did read some just regular jazz news, articles here in Utah, and there was nothing about this controversy that I saw. It was all about exciting new player. So that's interesting, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah. Everybody has their take. Yeah. We'll see. That's how we'll leave this. We'll both go, we don't know. Anyway, please comment. Let us know. What have you heard? What do you think? Are we totally off base? Again, we're just trying to give all points of view. Everything is alleged. We have no idea exactly. And we're just going to wait for more information. And of course, wish everyone in the scenario well, right? We want, everyone to be good, everything to be good. We wish everyone in the scenario well. And so please like and subscribe to Mormonish Podcast. If you'd like to be made aware of when new episodes come out, you can hit that notification bell. If you would like to help financially support Mormonish Podcast, we have links in the show notes to Donor Box. We are now finally a 501(c)(3), and we certainly appreciate all of you that do help us financially. It just means so much to us, and it really does. What is it? RFM always says helps keep the lights on or something. Hear it. I love it how he says that, but you know what? We're not kidding. You guys really do make a difference. It's really amazing. And we appreciate all of you. We also have links to our merch store in our show notes. Fabulous Mormonish merchandise like mugs and sweatshirts and hoodies and all kinds of fun stuff. So you can check that out if you're interested. And we'll say goodbye one more time from Mormonish Podcast. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Mormonish. We really appreciate our listeners and would love to hear from you if you have a story you'd like to share. You can email us at mormonishpodcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on our website, mormonishpodcast.org. And don't forget to look for us on YouTube and like and subscribe. Keep joyful, everybody.